Welcome to Edged Mindset. Thank you for joining me. We're going to be taking a look at a beautiful custom Marfione Scarab today on the channel. Haven't opened one of these in a long time. They're very, very expensive, but I'm going to talk a little bit about why I picked this up. There's actually two reasons why I just couldn't pass on this one. And then we're just going to kind of look at it and oogle it and talk about it. Talk about how awesome it is. So as usual, it comes in a beautiful presentation box here. You've got this checkered pattern. You've got gold leaf in this dagger with the signature there. Magnetic closure, Marfione custom knives. Open that up. We've got another gold leaf embossed dagger logo at the top. And then inside, underneath the pouch, we've got a microfiber cloth that has, once again, the dagger logo, but this time embossed on here. Looks very, very cool. Custom microfiber. And then we've got the titanium declaration of authenticity. It's got the Sean and Tony dual logo over here with both signatures. Information about the knife, serial number 25, which is pretty cool. DLC satin finish. Looks amazing. I think you guys are really going to dig the way this looks. I know I do. Scarab too. Scarab is probably my overall favorite design from Microtech. I have had a little bit of, the custom scarabs I've struggled with a little bit over the years. Maybe I'll touch on that here in a minute. Maybe I won't. Custom zippered pouch signature. You've got the titanium patch here. This one's in bronze. Sometimes they're silver. And then you've also got the matching titanium dagger on the zipper lanyard here. Very high quality, as you would expect at something like this, right? This is a collector's piece. This is kind of a, something to oogle and admire. Inside here, it's nice and padded, and then we've got a microfiber baggie, and inside the microfiber baggie, you have the knife. Yee! Yes, sir. So this one is completely blacked out and absolutely beautiful, like some sort of evil, I don't know, entity, some evil dark entity, and there is the blade. Now this satin DLC is outstanding. It's one of those finishes, it doesn't slap you over the head like the mirror finish that a lot of people go for. I'll admit that mirror finish kind of just really grabs you and slaps you over the face. But for me, it gets a little obnoxious after a while. It's a fingerprint magnet, and I tend to sell the mirror finished customs faster than the other finishes. And I think that's going to be the case here. I think I'm really going to dig this DLC satin finish more than if it was mirror. I don't know. We'll see. Looks really amazing. I can't think of any other knife that has a DLC satin off the top of my head. I certainly haven't owned one. The other cool thing about this blade, let's just talk about the blade here for a minute. It's, of course, it's a unique blade shape. This is not a blade that you're going to find on a production knife with this fuller that runs all the way to the tip and these huge holes milled out. From a distance, it almost makes it look like it's two different blades kind of floating together, which, it kind of is. But from a distance, it especially just looks really, really cool and unique. And then when you look closer, you can see how it's actually done, how they're held together. Now, I know some people are screaming in the comments that's going to affect the integrity of the blade. Yeah, probably. But a knife like this, you're not using it hard. That's not the point of something like this. So I'm not too worried about it. And that satin DLC just kind of gives a different feel to this blade. Like, I don't know, something about it. It's got this like creamy type softness to it, but it's still DLC coated. Very, very cool. Beautiful bevel job, nice and sharpened. They did an excellent, excellent job on that. This is probably my favorite era of custom Marfiones, kind of this look with the deep engraved dagger logo right there, and then the engraved logo on the pocket clip. I think it just works really well. Titanium button, DLC'd, titanium ringed hardware, DLC'd, titanium glass breaker. I believe the pocket clip is still steel though. I could be wrong. We could test it. Yeah, it is steel. And that is one of the things, I struggle with the Scarab in general, especially the customs, is the fact that it just has a steel pocket clip. It's not titanium. There's nothing extra on there other than the finish. And in fact, while we're talking about that, what I've struggled with the custom Scarabs in general is a lot of what I like about the Scarabs, other than kind of the size and the chunky handle, is the inlays that the productions would have. All the versions of the Scarabs, the QD Scarabs, the new ones, the Gen 2s, the Gen 2, Gen 3s, if you know, you know, they all have inlays in the handle, and that's kind of like what made them somewhat unique. Not that that's the only knife Microtech does with inlays like that, but it was one of the telltale characteristics of the Scarab is those inlays. But the customs get away with that with just this hefted, what they call hefted, which is really just like a wire brush finish on the handle. And it looks really clean, but it also makes it look a little too simple, right? There's really nothing going on, not a lot of shape. It's kind of just like a square handle. And so on the customs, I've always kind of struggled with that, along with the fact that it just has a steel pocket clip and things like that, which is why I haven't really held on to them. This is the only custom Scarab I have right now. I've owned, I think, 3 others. I think I had 4 of the I've had 4. So I've had 3 with the DES blade shape, 1 in mirror, 1 in satin, and then 1 in Baker Forged Damascus. And then I had an older spear point, kind of like this one, except I believe it was, everything was DLC, it was all blacked out. It didn't have this floating, like, fuller blade. I think it was just hollow ground on both sides. And then I think it had a DLC apocalyptic finish, maybe? Something like that. It was pretty cool, but I've always sold them all because they just never really grabbed my attention as much. But this one is a little bit different. This blade shape is absolutely unique. That hollow grind looks beautiful, all done by hand. And this knife is probably the knife that I pined after the most out of any knife. They had one of these at PBK for a long time, and I almost pulled the trigger, and this was probably about 1.5 years ago. I almost pulled the trigger multiple times and bought it. I just kind of held off on it, and I didn't do it. And then I would look up, it's one of those things where I'd look up old sales videos on like Facebook and find videos of this knife, and I would save them and just watch them over and over again. And there was also, I think Recon 1 did a video on YouTube, a short, and I'd watch that one over and over again of this exact knife. And it just never happened. I never bought it. And then a week ago, this popped up for sale on Facebook for a screaming deal, a really, really good deal. And I reached out to the seller to ask a couple questions, has it been used, carried, that kind of thing. He answered, and then he's like, hey, haven't I sold to you before in the past? And I was like, yeah, I think I bought a Scarab from you before. And he's like, okay, well, I appreciate that. So I'm going to give you an even better deal. And so he really hooked me up. It was almost a too good to be true deal. I got this at about 50% off of retail by buying pre-owned, from him. This thing is perfect condition, not a mark, nothing, like brand new. It's been kept in the case. I got it at just over 50% off of retail, which is an amazing deal. I couldn't quite pass that up. I know a lot of people that know the prices of these things are still saying, well, that's still too much for that knife. I get that. However, I look at it more like there is no way I could not get my money back on this knife if I wanted to sell it. If I need to sell it, I can sell it fast and get my money back. No problems. And so that made it a no-brainer for me to check this guy out. And I got to say, I really dig it. These finishes they're not as impressive when you take it out and you first fire it as like the mirror polish finish, like I mentioned before. But for me, it kind of builds, every time I look at the satin finishes, it just, I get more and more appreciation for it and I enjoy it more and more. Whereas the mirror finish, I kind of get burnt out on it. It's a little too flashy. It's a little too much. Looks impressive at first, but before too long, I'm kind of sick of it. So I think that's going to be the case with this knife. What do you guys think? Do you like finishes like this over the mirror finish that Microtech's kind of known for in their customs? Or do you prefer that mirror liquid metal type finish? Comment down below on what you think, and comment down below on what you think of this Scarab. All right, guys, I will catch you later. Take care.